completely made up.
That is what the sheriff in Marion County, Florida, had to say about a teenager's apparent claim that he'd been kidnapped. Now, as authorities claim it was all an elaborate hoax, 17-year-old Caden Speight is officially facing charges for wasting resources. We have new details we have to get into. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. When Caden Speight was first reported missing in Central Florida on September 25th, there was an absolute groundswell of support from the community. His mother, Annie, wrote on Facebook, "I got a message that I need help. 4 Hispanics in a white van, 1 driver. I'm shot. Looks like the tracks headed towards Denellen. Nothing found with helicopter or dogs. I was told police are looking in ditches and river in case they dropped him off somewhere along the way. Please help find him." And the Denellen and Citrus Springs community, they jumped into action. Neighbors, friends, they organized searches. Florida's Department of Law Enforcement, the FDLE, they issued an Amber Alert for Caden. The Marion County Sheriff's Office deployed canine units. They launched helicopters. They mobilized patrol teams to search for him. But as more details started coming out about what might have happened, his whereabouts before his supposed kidnapping, that's when there was a turn. That is when concern quickly turned into suspicion. Caden was spotted on surveillance video inside an Ocala Walmart store dozens of miles away from the family home, buying a bicycle just before he was allegedly kidnapped. Marion County deputies confirmed that Caden also bought camping equipment, including a tent, before being seen on security cameras getting on the bike in the parking lot and leaving. The sheriff's office would later update its social media pages to say that Caden had been located safe and the investigation was ongoing. Clearly, something was going on here. And now, what we want to talk about. Now, there has been this affidavit that was filed in connection with this case. It has been released, and it is giving us a lot more details about what deputies were discovering about Caden's disappearance and what happened when they confronted the team about his alleged scheme. This 11-page document is a treasure trove of information. So to talk about this, to talk about the potential repercussions of this teen's decisions, I want to bring in Dave Aronberg, former Palm Beach County State Attorney, and also, by the way, host of Florida's Lawman from Midas Touch. You can check him out there online. Dave, thanks so much for coming on. A lot to talk about here. So when Caden Speight was reported missing, as I'm sure you know, social media exploded with posts asking people to be on the lookout. You couldn't scroll Facebook without coming across at least one Caden Speight post. In fact, the response from law enforcement and the community was so overwhelming that the sheriff addressed it in a news conference a few days after Caden was found.
Many of you are asking, well, why do you diverted so many resources? The truth is, in all cases, we cannot take anything that's done or said lightly. We have to take it as though it was the truth in the beginning. Because heaven forbid, if something just made one little turn and it turned out to be the truth.
Now that's a fine line, right, Dave? I mean, how much does the public help? How much does the attention help in a case that's rapidly developing like this?
It's just the world we live in now, Jesse. This is a social media world. Everyone is a sleuth online, it seems like. And the sheriff recognizes that. And the passions that this created can be helpful. You have all these people looking out for what they thought was a missing 17-year-old and then realizing it was a hoax. And he is trying to get ahead of it because you don't want any vigilante justice. You don't want harassment for the family. And so he's coming out and being transparent about it. So I think he did a really good job.
Yeah, there was genuine concern out there, and now there's different feelings. Now, this is a story that we've been on top of since the very beginning of it, and the reason we can do this, the reason we can provide you updates, is because of the amazing support that we get from our sponsor, Upside. Now, this is the free app that gets you cash back on daily essentials like gas, groceries, food. So I pump my gas, I can use Upside. I go out to lunch, I can use Upside. I get something in a convenience store, I can use Upside. And why wouldn't I want to get cash back when I do all these things, right? This is actual, real cash back. It's money that appears in your Upside app that you transfer right into your bank account. So once you have the free Upside app, you claim an offer for whatever you're buying on Upside. You pay as usual using a debit or credit card. You follow the steps on the app, you get paid. To find out how much you can earn, click the link in the description to download Upside or scan the QR code on screen. But make sure to use our promo code SIDEBAR because you'll get an extra 25 cents back on every gallon on your first tank of gas. So how did all this get started, right, based on the allegations? So let's take a look at the arrest affidavit. The on-call robbery and homicide detective was called about a possible kidnapping near the intersection of Southwest Highway 484 and Southwest 128th Avenue in Denellen. And here's what he saw. The vehicle had what appeared to be a bullet hole going into the driver's side windshield and appeared to have hit the driver's seat headrest. There appeared to be one shell casing in front of the vehicle. The driver's door was open, and there appeared to be suspected blood on the inside of the driver's door panel. There appeared to be suspected blood on the footstep into the truck, driver's side floorboard, driver's seat, and steering wheel. There also appeared to be suspected blood in the sand just outside of the driver's door. So you're talking about a lot of blood evidence, or potentially blood evidence here. This is just not just from a scrape or a bloody nose or something like that. But that wasn't the only critical evidence at the scene. The affidavit reads, just outside of the driver's door, there also appeared to be drag marks in the sand, and these drag marks appeared to be spaced out. There were multiple tire tracks, including a bicycle track in the sand leading from the passenger side of where the vehicle was parked. On the truck bed, there was a destroyed cell phone left at the location. The destroyed cell phone was nearly cut in half because of how badly it was damaged. I would later learn this cell phone belonged to the suspect based on the description later provided by the suspect's parents. Dave, this is a lot of critical evidence at first, but then when you look back at it with 20/20 hindsight, knowing that deputies later had made the conclusion that the whole thing was a hoax, that's the allegation, what do you take away from that? That's a lot of planning and a lot of work if this is true.
Sure is. Also, this kid could have killed himself because shooting yourself in the leg, there's a lot of bad things that could happen. I mean, I know in the movies it's just a seemingly a flesh wound, but that could have hit a vessel and really he could have died. So he went through such great lengths here. And also my question is the motive. I know people are talking that he wanted to run away. He expressed that beforehand. But if you're going to tell your family that you were shot and you're at a hospital, then how are you running away? You're being identified. You're being located. That's not running away. So it seems like perhaps a cry for attention. That's what still gets me on this whole thing. He clearly planned things out. At the same time, he didn't think things out. He didn't think 2 moves ahead. Of course, this was going to be found and people are going to know what's going on. And then what's next? What's next? What is his end game here? So I guess that's what happens when you're 17 years old and your brain doesn't stop developing until you're around 25, 26.
Well, we always ask these kinds of questions in these, fake reporting cases, right, based on these allegations. I mean, you look at the Jussie Smollett case, you look at the case we covered here extensively on Sidebar about the guy who had a kayak, overturned it, went to Europe, came back. It's a remarkable thing to see, and it's a concerning thing because not only does it get the community and family and friends completely embroiled in this and worried, but you're expending the time and resources of law enforcement, and that's really the problem here as well. So the detective wrote here that he did a recorded phone interview with Caden's mom, and according to her, Caden was homeschooled, but he was dual enrolled with the College of Central Florida, where he had an agricultural class on Thursdays. September 25th was one of those Thursdays, and Caden's mom had apparently asked him to pick up milk on his way home. According to the affidavit, that text message about being kidnapped by 4 Hispanic people was actually sent in a group text to Caden's mom, dad, and younger brother. His mom said she'd actually last seen him the night before. She left for work around 8 a.m. Caden was supposed to go to class at around 10:30. The text about the alleged kidnapping came in just after 4 p.m. And Caden's mom, quote, advised the text was out of character for the suspect and further advised he was a good kid. She had no information on the possible Hispanic suspects mentioned within the text message. And this detective also spoke with Caden's father. Quote, Mr. Speight advised he called the suspect at approximately 15:41 hours to ask him about a test he took today, and everything sounded normal. Mr. Speight advised there was an argument that ensued at a rodeo last Sunday, September 21st, 2025, with a separate family, but there was no physical fight. According to Caden's parents, he had mentioned maybe running away months back, but hadn't really brought it up recently, seemed to be acting totally normal. But as part of the next steps, the detective checked with local hospitals, to see if anyone had come into the ER, but no one had seen him. A search was done to see if there had been previous runaway reports. There hadn't been. The Marion County Sheriff's Office deployed canine units, its helicopter. There was no sign of Caden. And the detective then got permission from Caden's mom to go through a laptop that was still inside the truck to see if anything could point to what happened here. They didn't find anything relevant. So at that point, that is when the FDLE activated the Amber Alert. Now, Dave, 2 points here I want to get your opinion on. So first of all, you're getting the sense of how the family was completely shocked and in the dark about all of this, right, if these allegations are true.
They're clueless. I mean, this is part of the problem. They think their kid's such a good kid. Meanwhile, he had a gun on him the whole time. This thing clearly took planning. He cost taxpayers lots of money, put everyone in a state of frenzy, and could have killed himself. And then he blamed it on Hispanics. That doesn't sound like such a great kid. You know, I mean, this is something that to create some turmoil within a community and having everyone look over their shoulder for some Hispanics who allegedly kidnapped someone when that wasn't true. This reminds me of Susan Smith, who, when she rolled her kids into the lake, killing them, she blamed it on black people who hijacked her car, who carjacked her. So, you know, this is the kind of thing that you don't need in a community. You don't need during our difficult times right now when everyone's on edge about a variety of things. And it just shows part of the problem that these parents who just, oh, the kid's great, no problems at all. Clearly there are problems. And clearly the kid is not great. And that's why the kid is facing serious criminal charges, although he's being charged as a juvenile. So don't expect any real incarceration here.
And you make a great point. It's pretty disgusting what they're saying he did here. But also, this detective really didn't seem to be jumping to any conclusions, covered all of the bases before reaching out about the Amber Alert, which, as you know, right, it requires very specific criteria to be met before you can activate that.
That's right. And that's part of the problem. You know, every driver, you know, you have your cell phone, unless you're turning that feature off, it's blaring at you because this is something really serious. We want everyone to know what's going on. So this is why this kid obviously only thought of himself, didn't think of the impact it would have on an entire community. And that's why he's being charged with some real crimes here. One thing to know, Jesse, he's being charged with, among other things, filing a false police report and making false statements, even though he's not the one who filed the police report, even though he's not the one who directly made the false statements. But when he lied and gave all this false information, he knew it would be passed on to the police, and that is a crime.
Now, this detective was able to learn a lot of information about Caden's location on September 25th, thanks to technology, okay? So Caden's mom tracked his phone via the Life 360 app. She gave deputies permission to go through her phone to gather critical information, and here's a timeline. So according to the affidavit, Caden left home on the 25th at 9:10 a.m. He drove to a Walmart store, and then his location shows as near the Walmart store for about 20 minutes. 10 a.m., he drives to his agricultural class at the College of Central Florida Vintage Farm campus. He's there for the next several hours, and this is before he leaves around 2:20 p.m. and goes to a nearby Dick's Sporting Goods store and then to a different Ocala Walmart. So he's there for about 26 minutes, spends the next half hour driving in the intersection of Highway 484 and Southwest 128th Avenue, which I mentioned before. That second Walmart is apparently where Caden was spotted with the bicycle and the camping gear, according to the affidavit. Dave, back to you. Being able to assemble this timeline is not only important to establish the movements, but also the thought process, the planning, right?
Yeah, he's going to two different, like he's got the different Walmart, he's got the Dick's Sporting Goods here. He's going and deliberately going to different places, perhaps to throw people off the track. I mean, this is not something you just come up with spontaneously, but he really, I guess, doesn't understand technology because your cell phone is a tracker. There are cameras everywhere. Also, when you're going out in public, places like Walmart, there's going to be a witness, and there was a witness here who said, I just saw the guy you said was carjacked and kidnapped and shot. I just saw him buying a bike at Walmart. So this thing was doomed to fail from the beginning. Obviously not the sharpest knife in the tool shed. Is that a mixed metaphor, perhaps?
I'll let it slide.
All right, thanks, man. His elevator doesn't go to the top floor. Maybe that one. I don't know. One of these metaphors. But this was doomed to fail, and he's going to have to face the consequences. But fortunately for him, he's 17 and being charged as a juvenile. And so this is more about a rehabilitative sentence rather than a punishment.
So let's talk about this. The witness testimony gave investigators an idea of what was happening at this intersection around the time that Caden was allegedly being kidnapped by multiple people. So it says, quote, when the eyewitness turned left onto Southwest 128th Avenue, he observed a young, skinny white male wearing a baseball hat and sunglasses, matching the description of the suspect, standing next to the driver's side of the same vehicle, the truck, that was within the crime scene. The eyewitness further described seeing a bicycle lying on the ground on the passenger side of the vehicle. This corroborates with what appeared to be bicycle tracks on the passenger side of the vehicle. Due to the time when the eyewitness remembered turning left onto Southwest 128th Avenue, his observation would have happened after the suspect sent the text to his family at 16:06 hours. The eyewitness observed the Amber Alert on my agency-issued phone and advised it appeared to be the person he saw near the vehicle earlier. The eyewitness further advised when he turned left onto Southwest 128th Avenue, there was not a lot of traffic, and all the way to his home headed north on Southwest 128th Avenue, he did not observe any other vehicles other than the vehicle within the crime scene. The eyewitness explained it appeared the person was alone and he did not appear to be in trouble. So no white van was ever spotted on surveillance cameras near that intersection at the time. That would make sense with Caden's story, right? And as for what he purchased at the Walmart, investigators, they got their hands on a receipt from around 3:07 p.m. So this is 1 hour before Caden would send that fateful text. Quote, from the receipt, the suspect appears to purchase a Huffy 29 Rock Creek mountain bike, a green sleeping bag, a red, gray, and color Ozark Trail one-person hiker tent, an Ozark Trail hiking backpack, and a pillow. The suspect used approximately $400 in cash to purchase all of the items, with a total cost of $343.98 with sales tax. Now, Dave, let's actually start from the end before we go to the beginning. Paying in cash, that seemed deliberate.
Sure does. And look at the high-tech device that the cops use to discover all this. It's called a receipt. A receipt, a paper receipt. Yes. Yeah. He never thought they would get a paper receipt that showed what he purchased that day. Yeah, and he paid in cash. Wow, so slick. It's just 17-year-old just maybe crying out for help in some way, and hopefully he'll get the mental health treatment he needs, but he still should be accountable. And I think his parents should, for the costs involved, for the pain that they cause the community. But yeah, it shows you he paid in cash. That's deliberate. That shows he tried to cover things up.
And you see what he, purchased there. But I think the other part about it, as I'm going through this, and from your experience as a former prosecutor, it becomes, I think, increasingly more difficult to commit a crime or cover up a crime or try to stage a crime in today's day and age than it was years ago. I mean, look at the digital footprint. Look at the Life 360 app. Look at cell phone footage. Look at surveillance footage. Look, eyewitnesses. Maybe it's because it's in it's not in just a remote location. But that kind of struck me about it's very hard to not leave a trail.
I don't think a lot of criminals really realize and think that we have so much technology today that the thing in your pocket is a tracker, your cell phone. Google, we have this ability to pinpoint people. If you're in the checkout line at your Walmart, we have geolocators that are able to locate you at that area. I mean, there's cameras everywhere now, and everyone is a photographer with their own cell phone cameras. And so it's just much harder to commit crimes. I think of Brian Koberger, not to change the subject, but Brian Koberger was a devotee of serial killers, thought he would be the next Ted Bundy, apparently, until he realized, there's DNA. That's something they didn't have before. Yep. So that's why, thankfully for dumb criminals who are not aware of technology, it makes it so much easier for prosecutors to do their jobs.
Oh, yeah, that guy? Okay, so cell phone data, surveillance, eyewitness, DNA. Yeah, he is... So what was the elevator doesn't go to the top? Yeah, he was not the sharpest either. I'm going to
not the sharpest knife in the drawer, not the tool shed. There you go.
He was a monster who left an incredible trail for police and authorities to come right back to him. All right, so we go back to this. Now we have a .45 caliber shell casing that was found in front of the truck that Caden had been driving. The detective checks with Caden's dad, who confirmed that he owned two .45 caliber handguns. Later reported that one of those handguns was missing. You see how all the evidence is adding up here? So the affidavit also talked about the evidence that was found near the crime scene, including a tag for a bicycle, and strangely, this pair of red underwear, which was the brand that Caden wore, according to his mom. And that wasn't all. Quote, just outside the crime scene tape, near the vehicle, was a Gatorade bottle. Upon closer inspection, it appeared to be Glacier Cherry brand, which is a white and cloudy colored liquid. However, within the Gatorade bottle, it appeared to have red liquid. After looking at the red liquid inside, it appeared to be suspected blood. Therefore, the suspect possibly used this Gatorade bottle to spread blood on the driver's side of the vehicle and just outside of the driver's door in the sand. On September 26, 2025, a laboratory test was completed on the suspected blood within the vehicle and within the Gatorade bottle, which confirmed it was human blood. Furthermore, a laboratory test also confirmed the suspected blood in the vehicle matches the suspected blood within the Gatorade bottle. So, Dave, that is incredibly disgusting and intense, and why it suggests that parts of this were extremely well thought out. Maybe others weren't, like leaving such a trail of evidence back to investigators. But this is what separates it from someone just pranking 911 and calling about a fake crime, which is serious nonetheless. But this is, again, an area of planning that literally was being undetected leading up to this.
And it will be used against him, that kind of planning. And there will not be a jury trial for him because he's being charged as a juvenile. There'll be a judge, but the judge will see all this, and they could sentence him to a holding facility, which will keep him at the very least until the age of 19 if they really throw the book at him. That's 2 years, and possibly as much as 4 years up to the age of 21. But he clearly needs help. He had some advanced planning here. Also, he's lucky. I mean, messing around with your blood and Gatorade bottles and shooting yourself in the leg. There are so many bad things that could have happened here to him. Consider himself lucky. Hopefully he'll learn from this. Hopefully his parents will learn from this, and hopefully the taxpayers will be reimbursed by the parents for all the costs they incurred.
But here's the question I have for you as well is, you know, when you're looking at this and you're saying being tried as a juvenile, there's such adult aspects to this crime. Yeah. There's a sophistication there too. So A, I guess, is there any chance this could ever go back to adult court? And B, you said the parents are going to be on the hook for this, right?
Well, I do think the parents could be required to pay, and the county for the cost of the investigation, yes, and we'll see. But the parents here who were pleading for help from the community, the first ones to talk to the community, were the first ones to clam up when the police then said that their son is the suspect and did this to himself. And all of a sudden the parents like, all right, not talking anymore. Now, I'm sure they got advice from lawyers on that. And I don't want, like I said earlier, I don't want any vigilante justice or harassment of people. But I do think that they should be on the hook for paying for all these costs, and at least part of these costs, the Amber Alerts and all these, having law enforcement stop what they're doing on real crime and focus on this. Yeah. As far as being charged an adult, it's up to the prosecutors. In Florida, prosecutors have a lot of discretion whether to charge someone as a juvenile or as an adult. Because he's 17 and some of these are serious crimes, he could be charged as an adult, but already it looks like it's all in the juvenile court.
Now, before I let you go, a couple more things to talk about here. So things get even stranger. There was a forensic technician who found searches that Caden had apparently done on ChatGPT. Okay, quote, the suspect searched how to take blood out of myself for medical purposes without it hurting. What's the best route to take to get to Montoro, where the Gulf cartel are? And where is the main cartel station in Mexico right now? Now, it's still unclear why exactly Caden was searching those things. But Dave, this is another aspect, aside from it being a bizarre layer to this whole story. ChatGPT is now being part of criminal investigations.
And again, technology. I mean, what are these folks thinking? They think the Google searches are going to be private forever. Law enforcement can get that. Brian Kohlberger did the same thing. We see this all the time. Corey Richins, another case that we've been following. These Google searches come back to haunt them. And it really is like a microscope into their soul, because here they are on their computer late at night trying to find their way out of getting charged with a crime, trying to escape. It's consciousness of guilt. It's evidence used against them, and it'll be used against him in any future trial.
Now, something else. So one day after he was reportedly thrown into a white van by multiple suspects, Caden was found in Williamson, Florida, at an address that appears to be a shopping center with a Winn-Dixie grocery store and an advanced audio parts. According to the affidavit, the detective reviewed body camera footage from a Williston police officer, and when that officer walked up to Caden, Caden allegedly spontaneously uttered that he had his dad's gun in a backpack, which was sitting nearby. So the detective says he later confirmed it was the backpack that Caden purchased at Walmart. The bike was also nearby. Quote, the suspect continued he was on his way home from school yesterday and that a white van pulled up next to him, which caused him to pull off onto a side road off of 280th Street. Officers observed the suspect had what appeared to be a gunshot wound on his right leg. When asked when he was shot, his suspect stated it occurred about 30 minutes ago and right before they dumped him. The suspect advised the bicycle was not his and that it was dumped off with him. The suspect was asked if he purchased the bicycle from Walmart, which he denied. The suspect stated the driver of the van was also kidnapped kidnapped and described the driver as a middle-aged black man who said his name was Charlie and was not told a last name. Again, the suspect would spontaneously utter, "They dumped me, shot me, and left." The suspect would continue to state they used him last night and wanted him to fight. When asked what gun the suspect was shot with, he confirmed it was his father's firearm in the Ozark Trail backpack, which he then stated he did not even know where the Ozark Trail backpack came from. Dave, quick thoughts on that.
My head's spinning. It makes no sense. Yes, he admitted he had a gun, and then these terrible people actually used the gun that was in the backpack to shoot him in the leg, and he doesn't even know where he bought the backpack, where it came from. This was easy. That's why law enforcement came out right away and said there's a 100% certainty that he shot himself. There's no one involved. There's no assailant. You rarely hear law enforcement come out with 100%. They usually leave themselves a little wiggle room. Not here. This was an easy one. Case closed.
So investigators, they spoke with an employee at this auto parts store too, who, quote, would advise an individual attempted to sell a black bicycle wearing a silver logo, which he would decline. After the encounter with the suspect, he observed a social media post depicting the suspect and recognized him as the individual attempting to sell the bicycle. Investigators, they also reportedly found the tent and the sleeping bag that he apparently bought at Walmart. They found it in a clothing donation box in the parking lot. So you're seeing just all of this coming together. Caden eventually went to a hospital in Gainesville for his gunshot wound, and the Marion County detective wrote, upon arrival, I observed the suspect in the hospital bed and his parents nearby. The suspect did not appear to have an injury on his upper torso or on his face, further corroborating his text about being hit was false. Mr. Speight stated the suspect had no other injuries other than his injury upon his right leg. Mr. Speight stated the injury will require surgery because his right femur bone had been shattered. Now, Caden's father told the investigator that he was getting an attorney for his son, requested that officers not speak with him, did consent, by the way, to DNA swabs being taken, though. Now, of course, it didn't look good when the Marion County Sheriff revealed in his press conference that the Speight's were reportedly not cooperating. But the affidavit says that forensic technicians, they were able to match the shell casing found near Caden to his father's gun, as well as the shell casing found in front of the truck the day before. They also matched the blood inside the Gatorade bottle to Caden. So you see all this evidence coming together. And the affidavit concluded, based on the above mentioned facts, the suspect unlawfully possessed his father's firearm as a juvenile, discharged it into his father's vehicle, fabricated evidence to suggest a crime occurred, and willfully sent his family false information by text message, thereby causing that misinformation to be conveyed to law enforcement. So again, the charges that Caden faces are presenting false evidence, shooting into a conveyance, making a false report of a crime, and possession of a firearm by a minor. A news release from the Marion County Sheriff's Office indicates that Caden was arrested. He was transported to the Department of Juvenile Justice. So Dave, you talked about it being in the juvenile system. What can we expect next? I mean, do you think he's going to get convicted? Do you expect a plea? What could his punishment ultimately be?
Because he's in juvenile court, he'll get sent to the Department of Juvenile Justice. There'll be a judge, not a jury, and the judge will send him perhaps to a residential commitment facility, and it can range from low risk to maximum risk, and he can be under the jurisdiction of the Department of Juvenile Justice until the age of 19, or if it's a very serious crime, 21. But that's it. That's why if you have something that involves like a murder, someone who's a teenager will be charged as an adult because the juvenile system jurisdiction ends at 19 or 21. It depends. And that's really going to be his fate. It'll be a residential commitment, I think, at least for some time. His driver's license could be suspended. He'll have to pay some restitution. But as far as adult prison, doesn't look like that's on the table.
Dave Aronberg, thank you so much for coming on. It was great seeing you.
Thanks for having me, Jesse.
And that is all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow me on X or Instagram. I'm Jesse Weber. I'll see you next time.